we're talking a lot about mental health. It is the start of Mental Health Awareness Week, and as we've said this morning, you've been really open in the past about things. I want to get straight into that. What was the big turning point for you, Paul? All the struggles that you've had, certainly post-career that you've been very open about. I know there were problems when you were playing as well, but what was the big turning point for you?
You know, I'd had enough. I'd had enough of living the life I was living. I mean, I'd been into treatment twice before. I mean, first of all, the FA sent me in 93, 94, and I had to go. Then I went with Walsall, and it was like I was being forced to go. It wasn't me. And then one day I was walking home. Not how long ago would it be now? It was January. So January the 16th, not this year, last year. So about 15, 16 months ago. And I was walking home from the British Legion on a Sunday evening, and it was about 11 o'clock. And I thought, you know what? I've had enough of feeling like this every day of my life. And I thought, I don't know what it was. It just happened. And I rung up Alcoholics Anonymous the next day. And since then, I haven't had a drink, thank God. But I just had enough of feeling the way I was feeling. And it's not a way of living. You know, feeling like that every day of your life is not enjoyable.
I have to be honest here, Paul. We did some work together. We're going back probably to the November or October before that January at Wembley. Yeah. You'll remember it. But and I remember being in the sort of green room with you before we went and sort of met 40 or 50 members of public each night. And I saw you put away a bottle of wine before you went and did that every night. Yeah. And I thought to myself, is that normal? But I didn't say anything and I didn't do anything about it. And I've thought about it since and thought, well, should I have done something in that situation? Having been through that, what would you say to people who are on the other side and might be able to see some damaging behaviour themselves?
Yeah, it's hard when you're in it. I mean, yeah, I remember that, Dave. Yeah, I mean that was just the norm for me. But you know, believe it or not, I'm quite a shy lad. If you believe it or not, if I go into a room, I mean, I've got better now. But when I was in my drinking days, I'd need to have a drink to talk to people. I'd feel very shy. I feel very insecure, and it would bring me out of myself. And so that just become the norm. I mean, it is different. My life now compared to 16 months ago is, I mean, it's chalk and cheese. It is chalk and cheese. I still have bad days. Of course I have bad days. I mean, you know, that's life. That's life, lockdown or not lockdown. And the thing is, I can cope with them now. I have the tools, and I call them tools, where I can ring people. I know that it will pass. I mean, in the days, don't get me wrong, when I was bad, I didn't see any light. I didn't see light. I mean, the thoughts that went through my head were scary. So now I do have them. I do have them tools where I know it will pass. But it's one of them situations where you've got to draw the line. You have to want to do it yourself. You can't do it for your wife. You can't do it for your kids, even though you want to. The amount of times I thought, oh my God, I've got to do this for my wife, Kate, or I've got to do it for my kids. It doesn't work like that, because if you have an argument, the next thing you're going to do is go, oh, I've had enough. I mean, I'm only doing it for you. And then you're going to go out and do the bad, destructive things that you were doing in the first place. So it has to be you that wants it. And, you know, thank God I wanted it.
You talked before, and I heard you mention there. Just Jamie, let me just pick up on this one thing here about having the tools to cope. Can you explain what you mean by that? And so people who might be watching or listening this morning, it might be able to help them.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, which was a major help for me. I'd been before years ago, but didn't really. I just sat in there and went through the motions, really, because I had to. Otherwise, I lost my job. This time, I went open-heartedly and I listened, and I literally put my pants in my mouth and listened. Do you know what I mean? Because I can talk. So the thing is the tools are you start working on yourself. Why did I drink? Why did I drink? Why do I want to keep on drinking and gambling? And it's insecurities, it's ego, it's all them kind of things. And they're the sort of tools I get now. You know, they're the tools. And to pick the phone up. You know, before I'd have no what's the word I'm looking for? I have no situation of space. I don't have drink indoors. I don't have drink indoors. So if me and my wife did have an argument or something happened or I got a bill through that I couldn't afford to pay or something, I don't just go to the cupboard and get a drink out and, like you said, drink a bottle of wine in 10 minutes. I'd have to go to the off license and do that. Now, that's 5 or 10 minutes. By the time I get that 5 or 10 minutes open space of thinking this is not right, then I'm okay. And they're the kind of tools I'm talking about. And talking about myself and because as Graham said, with people like people like me is we struggle to cope with everyday life. The run-of-the-mill normal day life for Graham and Jamie and yourself, we could have exactly the same scenario and it would majorly rattle me. It would majorly affect me, but you probably wouldn't even notice it. Nothing with you, but with me, it would be major, and it would be something that I'd have to ring my sponsor. I'd have to, and real hold on. I mean, and that's where it's hard. That's where it's hard. But I do have people. I feel so sorry for people that haven't got help at the moment who are struggling because you don't see a way out. It's so dark, and it's only when you get around people in your same position and when you talk to them and how you feel. And they nod in their head and they're going, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I understand that. And you're thinking, wow, I thought I was the only one. And that's where it's better for me.
Merce, Jamie, I just want to touch on something. Okay. I always remember with you, like when we've been in England camps together, and we used to have to sign the balls, like there was hundreds of balls in there. And I always used to say, Merce, can we do it together? Because I'd love being around you. I'd listen to your stories and you're always so funny, so good to be around. And I looked at you then and just thought, oh, what a fun guy. He's just enjoying his life. And then obviously what happened after when you coming out and talking about the problems that you had, did you almost feel for many years that you were just completely acting almost and living out a life that was just a lie to a certain extent?
Oh, 100%, Joe, 100%. I mean, it would take. I used to live about 10 minutes from the training ground. I did, and it used to take me about an hour and a half to get to work because I'd always be pulling over. I'd think someone was behind me, were going to kill me, or I was going to think, should I pull in front of this lorry and should I not? And if I do, this poor lorry driver. And lucky enough, they were my faults. Like that, I thought about other people at the same time. And then I get to work and I get out the car and I just go, whoop, mask on. Let's have a laugh, a joke with the lads. And then when I get back outside again, it was back to being, that was my only release, was playing football. It was my release, especially 3 o'clock. When I crossed and went onto that pitch for 1.5 hours, it was just, honestly, you couldn't believe what a relief it was. With everything going on in my head, it was the only time that nobody could affect me. It was like, it was my time for an hour and a half. And that was it. Football was a massive part of my life. And it was a shame what Craig just said, because I mean, I love football. I just absolutely loved it. I mean, playing, the buzz and everything. And that was my release. That was my only release. And that's a shame, really, because, I had kids as well. And, I got kids and, I was so selfish. And that's what alcohol and gambling and drugs do. They just make you a very selfish person.
Merce, I touched on it earlier. Tell us how difficult it would have been for you to try and go and speak to someone when you were suffering as a player. How you would have worried about how that person would have viewed you.
Probably the madness of it all, Graham, was I didn't really think anything was wrong with me. I just thought it's just the way I was wired. I thought, well, this is just the way it is. I mean, when I was playing football in the early years at Arsenal, when I was going through it really badly, no one was talking about mental health. No one even knew what it was. I mean, I'd never heard it in my life. And I just thought it was, it's just me. Why would I pester someone about something where it's probably just me? And I don't want someone to think, oh, my God, he's crazy. They'll put me away. Do you know what I mean? They'll put me in a nut house or something. And that was it. But I just thought it was a norm. I mean, people used to go, Merce, he loves a good time. He loves a drink. And, it was just feeding my ego. And the more that was said, the more I'd done it. So I never ever thought about coming out at the time because I honestly didn't think there was. I know this sounds really weird, but I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. Even though them thoughts were going through my head, I'd never ever heard anybody else talk about them. So I thought that's just me. Let's just leave it like that.
So we're having this week of mental awareness, and obviously there's kids today in dressing rooms that were the exact same as you were all those years ago. So what's your message to them now? You know, the fact that it's more out there, the fact that we're talking about it, the fact it's going to be spoken about all week, the fact it's been spoken about before. What's your message to these kids that might be feeling some of the thoughts that you had? Because we know how hard and harsh a dressing room is, and the banter can be exceptionally cruel. You know, you go back to your Arsenal days and you say, look, guys, I'm feeling a bit like this. They would have laughed at you. And you wouldn't have got off the hook for several weeks. That would be constantly brought up every day you went into work. So what's your message to the kids who are a little bit nervous about confronting it today?
I'd be shocked if they got. I don't think dressing rooms are like they were when we played. I mean, if you walked in, you know, you get ripped to shreds. But I think now, the worry is with players, and I think this is the major worry is that people think, oh, they're on $100,000 a week. Why should they be like that? And that's the problem these footballers have now is coming out. That's why I love Danny Rose. You know, I have so much respect for him. I don't know him, but he come out and he just went, bang, I'm struggling. I struggle with this and that. And, you know, I have so much respect for him. I feel sorry for these players now because everybody jumps on the bandwagon and goes, you're on $100,000 a week, so why should you feel like this? No, it doesn't work like that. It's nothing. It's not. You know, it's nothing to do with that. This is it's an illness. This is so. For me, I think it's hard in that way. I don't think with the dressing room. I think the players now, it's a different kind of player than when we played. I think the dressing room's more quiet, and I think it's more understanding. But if I was a player now, it's easy, you know, we can all sit here. I'm 52 now. If I knew what I knew at 20, you know, I mean, I'd be a completely different person. Of course I would. But you only find that out through experiences. So for these players now, if I was their age or talk to them, I'd try and get them as much help as I can because this career is very short, as we all know, and it goes very quickly. You want to enjoy every minute of it. And you don't, you know, I go back to Craig. You know, it's such a shame. You don't want someone to say that they didn't really enjoy their football. That's a shame. And I think that's what people have to listen to and say, right, I want to enjoy this because it is the greatest sport in the world, in my opinion. And when it's gone, and that's it. And it's no coming back. And for me, there's no bigger buzz in the world. And I just think, you know what, I'd put, if someone was struggling and they went and got help, I would put 30% on their game. 30%, they would become a better player.